Good morning, student. Welcome to the second lecture of unit number 6. In the previous lecture, we had a discussion on what is pipelining. So what is pipelining? Pipelining means fetching next instruction while executing the current instruction. That means in the pipelining concept, we are overlapping the phases of an instruction. Okay, and why we use pipelining? To make your processor to work faster. So in the last lecture, we also discussed about the two-stage pipelining. Why it is called as two-stage pipelining? Because here basically we are overlapping the two basic steps of instruction, that is fetch and execute. Okay, it means that while first fetch instruction number 1, while executing instruction number 1, we are fetching instruction 2. While executing instruction 2, we are fetching instruction number 3. So here we are overlapping two basic phases of an instruction. That's why it is called as two-stage pipelining. After that, we have also discussed about what is four-stage pipelining. Now it is a four-stage pipelining. So what does it mean? Four-stage pipelining means we are overlapping the four phases of an instruction. Which are those? First basic phase is fetch instruction, then decode instruction, then execute, and after that write. Okay. In two-stage pipelining, decoding is happens in between the fetching and execution. Okay. But in four-stage pipelining, we are doing decoding separately. So first, fetch your instruction number 1, then decode instruction, then execute instruction, and then write instruction. But while decoding the instruction 1, side by side, we are fetching instruction number 2. Okay. While decoding instruction number 2, side by side, we are fetching instruction number 3. Okay. So here what happens? The four clock cycles are required for the instruction number 1. The total 4 cycles like fetch, decode, execute, and write. But after that, we required only one extra step, that is write, and write, because all these steps for the further instructions is happen side by side. Okay, we are not doing it separately. That is the 4-stage pipeline. Now, what is the formula to find out the total cycles? If it is a non-pipeline processor, then formula is K into N. Now, what is K? K stands for the number of stages and N stands for the number of instructions. Okay, so if your number of stages are 3 and number of instructions are 3, that means your total cycles are 9. Then what is the formula for the pipeline? It is K plus N minus 1. Again, K is the number of stages, N is the number of instruction. But as we complete first instruction and then we go for the another instruction, that's why it is minus 1. Okay, this all we have discussed in the previous lecture. So along with that, there is another concept, that is 5-stage pipelining. Now it is 5-stage pipelining. So 5 means there should be 5 phases of an instruction. Okay, and also consider, let's consider there are 5 instructions. Okay, now 5 stages and 5 instructions. Now what is the formula? Formula is K into, and this is the simple formula for calculating the total cycles. Now there are 5 stages and there are 5 instruction for non-pipeline. Okay, so how many total cycles are there? There are total 25 cycles. Okay, so non-pipeline processor gives 25 cycles. And how many cycles are given by pipeline? Now what is the formula for pipeline? It is K plus N minus 1. Okay, so how many stages are there? As it is 5-stage pipeline, that means there are total 5 stages. And how many instructions are there? 5 instructions. And this is minus 1 because first we complete instruction 1. So we can do it like this. Okay, so how many cycles are there? Total cycles are 9. Okay, so moral is that As you increase the pipeline stages, you will get higher and higher the performance of processor. Why? Because this is a parallel result. So you adding more parallel operations to keeping the processor in an entire architecture busy, something on or the other. Okay, so the processor works on 4 instructions at a time because it is a 4-stage pipeline. 5-stage pipeline started by Pentium. Okay, Pentium processor uses 5-stage pipeline. So the pipeline of Pentium is 5-stage. Now why 5-stage? First one is the fetch, second one is the decode, third one is the address calculation, that means segment and page translation, fourth one is the execute, and then store. Okay, stored means write back, store the result. So that's a 5-stage pipeline used by the Pentium processor. So since it's a 5-stage pipeline, Pentium it works on how many instructions at a time? It works on 10 instructions. How it works on 10 instructions? It is a 5-stage pipeline. Okay, but it works on 10 instructions at a time. Now how it is? As it is a 5-stage pipeline, but there are 2 pipes. Okay, in Pentium, though it is a 5-stage pipeline, there are 2 pipes. Okay, so there are 2 pipes inside the processor. Let's say first pipe is U and second pipe is V pipe. Okay, so this like putting 2 full processors fused into one. So each pipe is a 5-stage pipeline. Now this U is a 5-stage pipeline and this V is again a 5-stage pipeline. Okay, so 2 pipes make it such together 10 instructions, 5 instructions by pipe U and 5 instructions by pipe V. That means though a Pentium is a 5-stage pipelining, how many instructions it can handle at a time? It can handle 10 instructions at a time. Okay, so how will the instructions be distributed? Instructions 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in U pipe. Then instruction 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 in V pipe. Like this? No. It will not work like this. Okay, because what happens? 1 and 6 will be executed. First, instruction 1 and instruction 6 will be executed. Then instruction 2 and instruction 7 will be executed. So the flow of the program will change. Okay, 1 and 2. First one goes in the U pipe and 2 goes in this V pipe. Okay, so once they both fetch, when they go to decode stage 3 and 4. Okay, so 3 and 4 coming to the pipe, etc. So this is a concept of multiple pipes. So what happens? Distribution is not like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in U pipe and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in V pipe. It will work like this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. So first 1 goes in the U pipe and 2 goes in the V pipe. Now while decoding 1, 3 goes in the U pipe and 4 goes in the V pipe. Now while decoding 3 and 4, now again 5 goes in the U type and 6 go in the V pipe. Okay, so likewise your Pentium 5-stage pipeline processor will execute 10 instructions at a time. So this is the concept of multiple pipes and which is also called as superscalar pipeline. Okay, so this concept is called as superscalar pipelining. So the next level of pipelining and this give both to the concept of multiple cores. This concept, this also gives the concept of multiple cores. Are you understanding? Today we are here with the dual core, quad core, hexa core and all of this concept. So dual core means there are 2 pipes. Most of the times we said that Pentium dual core. Okay, that means there are two pipes, two 5-stage pipelines there. Quad core, then hexacore means 6 pipes are there. So these cores are depends on the number of pipes you are using in your processor. Okay, and all of these concepts are eventually come out through the basic idea like pipelining. First of all, made processor faster. People got idea of putting long pipes, and then long pipes come to multiple pipes, and multiple pipes become multiple cores. Okay, core means your number of pipes. So, cutting the story short, a modern processor is an octa-core processor. That means there are 8 number of pipes. So even it does a 10-stage pipeline, it works on 80 instructions at a time as compared to 8085 processor, which works only on 1 instruction at a time. Okay. So what you notice, you don't need to increase the size of data bus. You don't need to increase the frequency of clock. Yes, those are value added. They makes the performance faster. But if just target just this concept of pipeline alone, it can give you a very big speed performance alone. Okay. So what is the advantage of pipelining? The advantage of pipelining is that it is a faster. Okay, and what are the drawbacks? Drawbacks are also called as pipelining hazards. Okay, so first one is the control hazard, second one is the data dependency, and third one is the structural hazard. Okay, now let's discuss one by one. So first disadvantage or first hazard is the control hazard. So we are executing first instruction, like there are 7 instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, we are executing first instruction. Suppose these instructions in a program comes to a 2-stage pipeline processor. Okay, now all these 7 instructions are comes to a 2-stage pipeline processor. Now 2-stage means only fetch and execute. We are overlapping only 2 phases of an instruction. First one is fetch and second one is execute. So we are executing the first instruction. What else we are doing? While executing the first instruction, we are fetching second instruction. That means overlapping 2 phases. While executing first instruction, we are fetching second instruction. Okay, so my question is, why we are fetching this second instruction? Why not the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth? Okay, why we are fetching only second instruction? Because we are assuming that program will always go in a sequential manner. So after doing the first, processor will need a second instruction. That's why we are fetching the second in advance, correct? So first we fetch instruction 1, and while executing instruction 1, we are fetching instruction 2 because we assume that our program is always goes in a sequential manner. Okay, so we are assuming program will go in a sequential manner. So is that a good assumption? Yes, of course. Programs are always executed in a sequential manner, but it's not a perfect. Okay, so why it is? Let's see. So if you had done programming in some languages like C, CPP, most of the times your programs are executed in a sequential manner, but not always. Sometimes there is a branch in the program, correct? If you do an if-else statement, if with the statement or if with the condition. So if the condition is true, do with this part, and if the condition is false, you take a jump. Okay, now you know that how if else works. If the condition is true, just execute that code. If condition is false, then jump to the next code or next location and go ahead. Okay, so if is an example, so again another example is for loop. So how does for loop work? You keep going ahead and then you jump back. Okay, you don't go on next line, you jump back. So that is you taken a branch. While loop also, do while loop, whatever the loops and whatever the conditional statements you are executing, you come back to that location. Okay, so function call also, you know how to call a function, write the name of a function and you give a parenthesis. So your program is going straight, you call a function, then your function will take branch, go somewhere and then execute the function and then come back to your program. Okay, so moral is that your programs are sequential in nature. They are sequential by nature, but they are not always. sometimes there are branches in a program. Okay, so if the first instruction says that I want to do jump to location number 7, you are executing instruction 1 and your instruction 1 says that I want to do jump to a location number 7. Okay, you return a jump. So this was if part not satisfied, you are taken a jump after the first. Okay, so now which instruction do you want? You want instruction number 7. So which one has been fetched? Second instruction? No. When was second fetch? After execution of first, after completion of first instruction or during the execution of first instruction? Of course, you are going to fetch instruction second during the execution of instruction 1. Okay, so during an execution, in an assumption that program will go in a sequential manner. Okay, because so we fetch the second in an assumption, but since this one has now taken a jump, so whatever you have fetched has to be discarded because instruction 1 wants to do a jump to an instruction number 7, but in advance you are fetching instruction number 2. So whatever you have fetched, this has to be discarded. Okay, so you go to location number 7, fetch that instruction, then execute it and fetch another instruction. So while executing instruction 7, what you are expecting, you will fetch instruction number 8. Now again, you are not come back and going to fetch instruction number 2. So once you fetch instruction number 7, while executing instruction 7, you are going to fetch instruction number 1 and then continue with the pipelining. Okay, but momently pipelining is failed. So when you executing a first, side by side you are fetching the second, but we are realized after executing first, we are not interested in fetching instruction number 2. We are interested in instruction number 7 as an example. Okay, that means I have to fetch instruction number 7. So if fetch instruction 7, I can't do executing any here that time. Then when I executed 7, I will fetch instruction 8 and then process will continue. But in the middle, momently there is a failure of pipelining. So there are bubbles. So we called it as bubble means empty spot. Okay. As after executing instruction 1, we are directly jumping on the instruction number 7, then 8, 9, 10. So in between there is a gap. There is a empty spot. That spot is called as bubbles. Okay. And such branching is a hazard. So branching means control hazard. That is the first drawback of pipelining. There is a control hazard. Control hazard are occurred due to branch statements. Okay. So this is about the control hazard. Then the next drawback that we have is a data dependency. So what is data dependency? Now in two-stage pipeline, this drawback looks very silly, but deeper pipes will becomes very severe drawback. So data dependency in simple language is that the destination of first instruction should not be the source of second instruction or should not be the source of next instruction. Okay, what is the definition of data dependency? The destination of first instruction will not be the source of second instruction. Okay, so if I write here increment B, this is increment B, and then I move A comma B. Okay, so what is increment B? Increment B means it is B plus 1. Okay, now suppose B is 20. Now what is increment B? Increment B will become 21. Okay, so increment B, initially the value of B is 20 and after increment, the value of B will become 21. Okay, then next instruction says A should get the value of B. Move A comma B. That means A should get the value of B. Okay, so that A will get the value 21 or 20. Obviously, A will get the value 21 because in the first instruction we have increment B. Okay, so that can only happen when move A comma B starts after this increment B instruction and is completely over. Okay, so if second starts before 1. If second instruction move A comma B starts before incrementing B, this is called as data dependency. So what is data dependency? Second instruction is depend upon first instruction. Okay, so the destination of first instructions should not be the source of second instruction. And if that happen, first instruction must be fully completed. Okay, that means the execution of first instruction must be finished before starting the second instruction. Okay, otherwise second instruction will get stale data. Stale data means old value of data, not the current value. That means if we start the instruction number 2 before the completion of instruction number 1, that means our move A comma B, A will get the value 20 because instruction 1 is not completed yet. So what is the condition? Before starting instruction number 2, first instruction must be fully completed. Otherwise, second instruction will get stale data. That means second instruction will get old data. That means your A will get value 20, not the updated value 21. Okay, and this problem can be solved for small pipeline instantly between the two instructions by putting NOP. NOP stands for no operation. In simple pipelining, if we put the instruction NOP, that is no operation in between this. That means to solve this data dependency problem, we have to write NOP instruction in between increment and move A comma B. This NOP stands for dummy instruction. So if we put NOP instruction, our problem will be solved because NOP means no operations, and that is it will not affect on program anyway. So what will it do? Is while this is going on NOP, we'll start this while we are executing NOP, we will get some time to complete the instruction number 1, that is increment B. Okay, so we will get some time to complete the execution of instruction 1, and after that, after some time, we will start the executing instruction number 2. So this NOP will give us a time gap between these two instructions. So this data dependency problem can be solved by using NOP dummy instruction, that is no operation. But this data dependency problem, this data dependency drawback become more serious for deeper pipelines. That means it is more serious for hexacore, octa-core processors. Okay, then the third hazard, the third drawback that we are having in pipelining is that structural hazard. So what is the basic definition of two-stage pipeline? That the definition of two-stage pipeline is that fetching the next instruction while executing the current instruction. Okay, that means what the processor is going to do two things together. What and what? Fetch and execute. Processor is doing two things together. That means processor is fetching the instruction and executing the instruction, and while executing it is again fetching the another instruction. So one instruction is being executed, second instruction has to be fetched. Now this can only happen, overlapping and fetching instruction can only happen if execution does not require memory. Okay, that means overlapping of fetching and execution will only happen when execution does not require a memory. That means when our data buses are free, that time only we can overlap the phases of an instruction. Okay, if your data buses are free, that time only while executing the instruction, you can fetch another instructions from the memory. Okay. So let's consider this is a processor. Now this is a memory. Now in the memory, in the upper part of the memory, we know that programs are stored, and in the lower part of the memory, data is stored. Okay. Now inside the processor, let's consider there are small objects. Okay. Inside the processor, there are some small objects which are used to hold the data. We can say that these are the registers which are used to hold the data during a program. Okay. So to fetch an instruction, you need the buses. Program is a set of instructions. Now to fetch an instruction from memory, we need buses. Okay, now we are saying this instruction has been executed. Okay, so execution is done by what? Execution is done by arithmetic and logic unit. So your arithmetic and logic unit is inside the processor. Okay, but execution also needs the data. Execution along with the instruction, execution also needs the data because we have to perform some operations on data. Okay, so if I said instruction add, let's say there is an instruction add. So what will you add? You will add the data. Okay. So as long as these values or data are in a register, that means let's say add A comma B. So as long as this data is in a register, that means this data is available in the processor, they are being added. So while they are being added, while they are being executed, the bus is not needed by the instruction. Okay, because we are fetching the instruction from memory into the processor by using the bus. Now your bus is free and your data is already available inside the processor. Execution is also done by the arithmetic and logic unit, which is in the processor. So execution is done inside the processor. Now here you are not requiring some buses. Okay, that means your buses are free and side by side you can fetch the next instruction. Okay, this is the basic concept. That is the pipelining, that what we expect. So, but that does not happen all the times, because if my instruction is, this is the simple instruction add A comma B and AB is available in the register. But if instruction is add A comma 2000. This means the location 2000. We have already seen in the addressing modes. Okay, this 2000 is square bracket means this is the memory location. Okay, so here you are adding the contents of A with the contents which are available at location 2000 in memory. Here we are adding contents of A with the contents of B, and here we are adding A with the contents of memory location 2000. Okay, that is to do this instruction. A is inside the processor. Here also A is inside the processor. That means A is available in the register. But location 2000 is not inside the processor. So processor have to get that data. Processor have to get that data from memory. Okay, so the processor have to get that data, and to get that data, processor will need the bus. So while it is using the bus, fetching cannot take place at that time, because processor using that bus to fetch the data from memory. So at that time we cannot use that bus to fetch the instruction from memory. Okay, so overlapping of fetching and execution can only be done when your data is present inside the processor. At that time only we can overlap the phases of an instruction. Okay, so what did I want to say? If I want to overlap fetching and execution, what I say, execution is happen inside the processor, and at that time buses are free, so we can use them to fetch another instruction. And that is the assumption which is true. As long as you working only on registers, if your execution also involves data from the memory, that means while you are getting the data, at that time you cannot fetch the next instruction from the memory. That means during the execution. So fetching has to be stopped, and there will be pipelining bubble. Okay, there will be empty spot like data, like control hazard. Okay, so if we are saying overlapping fetching and execution, it is possible only if fetching does not require memory location. Fetching does not require memory operands. Okay, and if it's working on register, but if it needs memory operands, fetching cannot take place. So this type of drawback called as structural hazard. And such type of drawbacks can be removed by using two approaches. First one is the RISC processor, by using RISC approach. Okay, so and second approach is that CISC. Okay, so what is the difference between RISC and CISC? RISC stands for reduce instruction set character. So it has lots of registers. So if you have lots of registers, obviously you are working, obviously your working is happening on registers. Okay, that means your most of the work happening on registers, so your dependency on memory will reduce. As dependency on memory will reduce, this drawback automatically diminish. Okay, so to remove the structural hazard, we have to use RISC processors, which are having lots of registers to hold the data. Okay, so this is about the superscaling, multiprocessing, and pipelining hazards.